We have liftoff. According to reports, a deal has been agreed between Manchester City and AC Milan for Tijjani Reijnders. What do we know about him? Well, we're going to get into it. Before we do, if you are new to the City Ramble, please make sure to hit subscribe. We are upping the content on YouTube throughout the summer transfer window and beyond. If you aren't already, do make sure to join the Manchester City Discord that we've got going with the City Ramble. The link is in the description. But let's get into it then. City's first transfer of the summer window looks like it's close to being completed. Tijjani Reijnders reports in Italy saying that a total deal worth 70 million euros has been agreed between Manchester City and AC Milan, which translates to around 58 million quid. Let's call it 60 million pound just for argument's sake. But he is obviously a midfielder. We know that. We can pull up some details here and you can look at the sort of positions he plays. It does say defensive midfield in there, but honestly, unless you're playing against a very low block, a team that hasn't got a lot of threat, that isn't going to counter too much, I don't think we'll see him in defensive midfield, because as we'll get into, his out of possession stats aren't necessarily the best, but don't worry. That's not why City is signing him. We've got Rodri, we've got Nico Gonzalez, maybe even Kovacic to do those roles. It's about what you can offer in the middle and final third. As you can see there, the big dot right in the middle, central midfield. That is what we're going to be seeing from Tijjani Reijnders in a City shirt. And honestly, maybe this comparison isn't fair. I don't know. But having watched him for some time, I'm getting early days Ilkay Gundogan vibes off him. And I don't necessarily mean the Gundogan that joined City. But if you go back and you watch Gundogan under Jurgen Klopp, where he was essentially a box-to-box midfielder, he had plenty of energy. He was arriving late in the final third, in the penalty area, popping up with goals. That's the kind of player that I feel like City have gone after and they've found and they've scouted in Tijjani Reijnders. Just a little bit on his career so far then. Obviously, he is a Dutch international. We know that. He's got plenty of caps for the Dutch national team. He started his senior career with PEC Zwolle. Then he went over to AZ Alkmaar, was in their youth team for a little bit. Plenty of appearances in the Dutch leagues for Dutch teams, but it wasn't until 2023, which is only a couple of years ago, he joined AC Milan, and that's where his career has really started to take off. He's played over, I think it's close to 100 times. On Wikipedia, for some reason, I think it only puts league appearances, which obviously isn't the case. Isn't all of their appearances, because there's been Champions League, there's been European football, Coppa Italia, etc. So he has become a mainstay in that Milan central midfield. Now, Milan had a bad season for their standards anyway. I think they finished 8th in Serie A. They're not going to be playing Europe at all, which has, I guess, allowed City to accelerate the negotiations, the deal, because, well, you go in, they'll have an asking price, and I imagine City have possibly matched it or even gone a little bit under. So that's what we know about his sort of clubs. In terms of the stats then, obviously you can see that second bar from the top, AC Milan. Yeah, over 100 appearances for AC Milan, 19 goals, 9 assists, which for a midfielder, I mean, what's that? Close to 30 goal contributions. You're talking close to 1 every 3 matches, 1 every 4 matches, a goal contribution, which, you know, is absolutely canny. He's only been sent off once, 1 straight red card throughout his career. So don't know what that was for. Maybe we can look it up. Hopefully it wasn't anything too bad. But even going back to his time with AZ Alkmaar, he got 13 goals, 15 assists. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he played against West Ham in the Conference League. When West Ham went and won the Conference League, the same season City won the Champions League and the treble, I'm pretty sure he was in the team that played West Ham. It might have been in the semi-final. We'll have to check that. As you can see, like I said before, it is since he moved to AC Milan where his stock and his value has completely rocketed. Transfer market have got him valued at around 50 million euros. So by their account, City are probably going to be playing a little bit over, but given the market, given the need for players as well in City's midfield, I don't think anybody can be losing their mind about a £60 million transfer fee, which it's looking like it's going to be. And yeah, like I said, he's going to be adding energy to that midfield. He's going to be adding a bit of dynamism. When you've watched City this season, so often the midfield has been so predictable. It's been Bernardo Silva picking up. He's been playing it sideways. It's gone out to the wing. It's come back into the midfield. There's been no creativity. There has been no spark. There has been no dynamism. There's been no athleticism. Tijjani Reijnders should, fingers crossed, be providing all of that. If we pull up his FBref statistics, his FBref scouting report, you can see there, this is versus midfielders in general. Non-penalty goals averaging 1 or 0.3 per 90. So again, that's working out at about 1 non-penalty goal per 3.5 matches, 4 matches. You can see there he ranks highly in terms of comparisons to other midfielders. Shots averaging 2 per 90. Now, bring me that, please, because I think when we've got into those positions, specifically against low blocks, so often these players have just been scared to test the goalkeeper out, which is, not necessarily something we've said about previous City teams. I know Kovacic does like to have a shot, but it always seems to be that he falls over when he's doing so. Assists are a little bit lower, hopefully, with the likes of Erling Haaland in attack, Omar Mamouche. Those numbers can possibly go up a little bit. What else have we got here? Pass completion rate, 88%. Now, you might look at that and say, oh, it's quite low. You want to be a little bit more careful with the ball. But I remember Kevin De Bruyne saying a quote, something along the lines of, I don't look at pass completion percentages because sometimes you've got to take a risk and you've got to play a pass that might not necessarily come off 5 times or once every 10 times, whatever it might be. Sometimes you've got to take that risk, and that's going to bring your pass completion down. So I reckon that's a decent figure, especially when you're talking about a box-to-box 8 who's going to maybe having to be playing a few more risky passes in the final third. These stats, I think, are interesting. Progressive passes, 6.4 per 90. Now, I forget exactly how FBref categorizes this, but I'm pretty sure it's along the lines of passes that break a line or travel a certain distance or something along that. Essentially, he's getting the ball and he's moving it forward. Now, if you combine that with Erling Haaland's runs, then, please, because again, this season, the amount of times that Erling Haaland has been in space and he hasn't been able to be picked out by the midfield. Progressive carries as well. I guess you could sort of say Mateo Kovacic is a sort of player you look at who is decent with that. Mateus Nunes when he plays in midfield as well, but it's about protecting the ball as well. It's okay trying to take those players on, but you've got to actually be able to, as it says underneath it, successfully take them on. He averages 1 successful take on per 90. Touches in the attacking penalty area, around 2.5 per 90. So that's, two touches in the attacking penalty area. That's possibly somewhere that could be increased. But again, if you're looking at the sort of position he's going to be playing, you do necessarily want to be you do want to be arriving late in the box, getting those goals. Think about Ilkay Gundogan, even further back, Frank Lampard, for example, when he was at Chelsea. I imagine that's kind of how we'll be seeing Tijjani Reijnders being used. And as I mentioned before, defensive numbers, not necessarily too canny, but when you've got Rodri, when you've got Nico Gonzalez as cover, I don't think we're going to be seeing a situation where we see Tijjani Reijnders playing as the deepest midfield player in City setup, because as you can see, not necessarily the highest there. So otherwise, in terms of scouting reports, this is from the Who Scored website. Strem's key passes, finishing, concentration, counter-attacking threat, doesn't necessarily dive into tackles. Think about what City's midfield has lacked this season, and I'm pretty sure most people would say stuff along those lines. Goals from midfield, key passes, finding the attackers, linking defence to attack. In terms of weaknesses, aerial duels, fine, I guess. I can't see a situation necessarily where we'd be wanting him to be winning lots of headers. Tackling, again, we've been over that. You've got Rodri there. You've got Nico Gonzalez to do that. So that is the sort of player I think City fans can be expecting if, fingers crossed, if this around £60 million deal gets completed with AC Milan. But it's exciting. It's fun. The transfer window isn't even open yet, and it's looking like City are going to agree a deal for one of the best midfielders in Europe. I didn't even mention, obviously, he won the Serie A Midfielder of the Year award. Now, that was a midfield that included the likes of Scott McTominay, who got the Player of the Year, so maybe they didn't necessarily want to share the awards. But still, this is a top player. This is a really good player. He's got plenty of years on his side. I think he's only 26 years old. So the rebuild has started, and I'm excited. As should you be. As always, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Plenty of videos throughout the summer going over some of the transfer links, stories, news, hopefully players that Manchester City signed. But in the meantime, it has been a pleasure, and we will see you later.